explorers, and welcome to another video. Today I'm gonna talk a little bit more about WebAssembly, and we are going to compare it to the old assembly language that I've used in my teenage years and not since then, so it's been a long time since I used this language and my knowledge of it is not up to date and it's probably not correct. So if you know a lot of assembly, you will probably pull your hair out, but I think it's interesting to look at these examples from a standpoint of assembly in order to understand WebAssembly in some way. So first off, when you're talking about assembly, you have memory somewhere that you pull data from, and then you have a local stack that you can put something on. So you push something to the stack, and you can think of a stack like a large stack of plates, and if you push something to the stack, you put a plate on the stack. And if you want to take something from the stack, you pop a plate off the stack. So you take a plate by the pop command, and you can only put something on or take something off. You can't take anything inside or at the bottom of the stack or anything. You can just work with putting something on or taking it out, so pushing and popping. And in order to create something in assembly, to create a function, when you call it, you need to do some setup. So first off, you have a lot of different registries. So you have AX, BX, CX, and DX, I believe. And these are your registries where you can put one value into. And then you have something called an execution pointer, I believe. And that's another registry that actually keeps track on where you are in your program. So when you want to call a function, you actually need to say something like push the EP, and you need to prepare this EP in a register somewhere by some command add and so on, and you need to add a few bytes to it. And in order to get past all the operations that comes next, you need to add a very specific value, and you can't know that until you've written that code. Or you could figure it out if you're really smart. But let's say that we push BX, push AX, and then we jump to our function. In this case, I call this function add function. So I want to do these operations here. I push BX, I push AX, and I jump to that function. And push, that's 1 byte. And then you have the registry, that's another byte that you need to represent that. Push, and then a registry again, and then jump, and a registry again. So here, I actually need to push the EP plus the operations that comes after it. So I need to push it and append 6 bytes to it. So it will jump after this operation. So it will end up here when you're actually done. And I'm saying that we jump to after that function. So in order to think of this stack, I first put something on the stack that tells the program where to return when the operation is done. Then I put 2 values on to tell the compiler where to what values I want to use in my function. And then we have my add function, starts here and here. I need to pop these values. Then I pop AX, I pop BX, and then in my add function here, I need to add the one with the other. So I do an add AX BX, and that will add BX value to AX and give the result in AX. And after that, I need to return AX. So this function down here will actually do a pop of the new EP that we want to return to, and that, let's say that we put that in CX, and then you do a jump to CX, and it also before that pushes the result of AX. So it actually jumps back and you have the result of the operation. So this is a little bit of an short introduction into how to write assembly code, and each of these commands are represented by 1 byte, at least in the old assembly for x86 that I learned a long time ago. But you don't need to know everything about how the compiler handles assembly language, or how C code creates assembly language, or how machine code actually works. I just know enough to read it and understand somewhat what it does. And that, I think, is interesting when you look at WebAssembly. So when we go to this code that we wrote earlier here, we have a code part here. It's a class, and then we have this function. It takes 2 values in, it adds these up and adds a 4, and then returns that value. And if we compile this into WebAssembly text so we can read it, it actually looks something like this. And if we keep in mind what we looked at earlier, what actually was going on in the WebAssembly code, or in the assembly code, we can see here that we have a module, and that module will export something called add. So that's the function our JavaScript will call. And then it replaces this little strange code name here. So this is just to say that it's inside our class at this location, and the function is called add. So that's something that the creator of the compiler choose to call the internal function, and that's not important. The important part is the exported value up here. And then it takes 2 parameters, and both are integers, and then it gives a result that is an integer as well. So first off, it runs this get local 0, and that's actually popping a value off the stack into our local scope. And then you pop another value into your local scope. So we see here that we have the exact same functionality that we have in our assembly code, that we pop something into existence in our program. So first off, we pop 2 values, then we add them up, and we will get the result in the 0 value, this local value. Then we set a constant into another registry, and we add that constant up with our earlier function. So we add that as well into the AX registry. And then we have a return command here that will return that registry back to the JavaScript program. So I think if you know how assembly works, I think this is a little bit more readable. It can seem very strange at first that you get first a value, then you get another value, and then run an add operation. And what are you actually adding? It doesn't say. But if you think of it in a way that you load 2 registries, you add them up, then you replace a value in one of the registries with 4, you add that up as well, and then return it, then it's easier to follow along. I hope that you found this deep dive into WebAssembly interesting. I hope that I haven't confused you too much with the assembly code. and I hope I haven't said too much wrong about how to write assembly. It was, as I said, very long ago that I learned assembly, so my knowledge is not fresh, and I haven't written assembly code in like 20 years. I hope that you learned something from this video. I hope that you found it interesting. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues. If you want to leave a comment and tell me that I did terribly wrong with the assembly, or that you are confused, or if you have any questions or anything like that, please leave them down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. And I really hope to see you in the next video.